You're not broken. You're just too original to fit inside a programmed world. Most people who feel like outsiders aren't suffering from loneliness, and they're suffering from clarity. They see the emptiness behind the smiles. They feel the dissonance in celebrations. They sense the scripts running behind every normal interaction. They carry too much intensity, too much truth, too much sensitivity. So they're labeled strange, difficult, too much. But the truth? They're sacred glitches in a sick system. You tried to adapt. You tried to please. You tried to fit. But every attempt to belong required a piece of your soul. You kept editing your truth until you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who was staring back. The pain of not belonging wasn't a flaw. It was a symptom of awakening. And why now? Because we live in a time where belonging is a product. Communities, tribes, digital identities, all promise connection but demand compliance. And the more you force yourself to fit, the more you betray what's real in you. True belonging doesn't ask you to shrink. It doesn't cost you your integrity. It starts the moment you stop trading your frequency for approval. I spent years wondering what was wrong with me, until I realized the problem wasn't not belonging anywhere. It was trying to fit into places that required my absence as the entry fee. Now I know. Feeling like you don't belong is not a curse. It's an invitation to build a space your soul can finally breathe in. You weren't born with a belonging wound. It was installed, quietly, strategically. You learned that being accepted came with conditions. Tone it down, smile more, don't ask too much. You were told your questions were inconvenient, your emotions too intense, your insight too heavy. So you began to shrink, to smile when you wanted to cry, to agree when your soul screamed no. You called it maturity, but it was survival. School taught you the blueprint. Be quiet. Be predictable. Fit in. Originality was punished. Creativity, dismissed. Depth, ignored. You were shaped into a version of yourself that made everyone else comfortable, except you. And with each adaptation, your nervous system registered one message. Being me is dangerous. At home, maybe you were told to be strong, normal, like everyone else. Maybe you were compared to siblings, criticized for daydreaming. Every comparison was a silent rule. Be less of you, and more of what we expect. Even your spirituality joined in. Don't question too much. Being different is ego. Belonging comes from obedience. So you began to doubt the very voice that once guided you. You started seeing your essence as a flaw, something to fix rather than protect. But the wound of not belonging didn't start inside you. It was planted, watered, reinforced. And now, for the first time, you're starting to question if maybe your pain was never the problem. Maybe your soul was simply refusing to be programmed. To survive in places where your truth was dangerous, you fractured yourself. One version to please, another to stay safe, another to remain invisible. Each fragment served a purpose: protect love, avoid rejection, stay in the tribe. But the cost? Exile from your essence. Your shadow isn't your darkness. It's your disowned light, the parts of you that felt too much, knew too much, loved too deeply. The part that questioned while others obeyed, that felt energy in words others found empty. You didn't choose disconnection, you were trained into it. Because every time you showed up fully, you were met with discomfort. Intensity scared them. Depth confused them. So you learned to mute your magic to stay safe. You didn't lose yourself. You buried yourself to be tolerable. And the more you adapted, the more disconnected you felt. Not because something was wrong with you, but because the world around you was too shallow for your frequency. The system doesn't want whole people, it wants performers. And every performance cracked you a little more, until the body started to scream. Anxiety, fatigue, numbness. It wasn't burnout. It was a soul screaming for reunion. You called it a breakdown, but it was really a breakthrough. Your scattered parts asking to come home. That feeling of not belonging will haunt you until you reclaim every part you silenced. Until you sit with your shadow and say, you don't have to hide anymore. I'm done deleting myself to be loved. You say you're free, but you still filter your truth to be accepted. Say you don't care, but a glance of rejection still stings. Say you're whole, but you still perform for approval. That's not freedom, that's upgraded survival. The system evolved. It no longer needs to cage you. It just sells you the illusion of belonging. Tribes, movements, digital identities. You're told you belong if you speak the right way, dress the right way, think the right way. Belonging has become branding. You suppress your truth to keep peace. You water down your words to avoid being too much. You edit your soul and call it strategy. But deep down, you know, this isn't you. It's your trauma, polished and marketable. The emptiness you feel isn't from being alone. It's from betraying your essence, from laughing when you want to cry, from nodding when your gut says run. And no amount of external validation will fix that dissonance. False freedom gives you space, but not safety. You speak, but not fully. Show up, but not completely. And that ache you carry, that's your soul knocking. Not to belong, but to be. You weren't meant to blend in. You weren't designed to shrink. That ache of not belonging isn't a flaw. It's a diagnosis. You were never meant to fit into anything that required you to disappear. There comes a moment when you stop looking for a place and become one. Breakthrough doesn't arrive with fireworks. It enters quietly like an ache. You're surrounded by people, yet hollow. You speak, yet feel unheard. You show up, but remain unseen. And something deep within whispers, enough. It's not rebellion. It's remembering. Your system starts rejecting anything that demands your silence as the price of connection. The rooms that once felt safe now suffocate. The conversations that once entertained now drain. The relationships that once anchored now blur your truth. So you choose. You choose to lose people rather than lose your essence. You choose silence over performance. You choose solitude over self-erasure. Not out of pride, but necessity, because your soul refuses to keep shrinking for comfort. Rebuilding begins with grieving. Grieving the version of you that tried so hard to belong, the one who smiled too much, dimmed too often, compromised too deeply. You bury that version not in shame, but in honor. They helped you survive, but now, they're in the way. Authentic belonging doesn't come from being accepted. It comes from staying whole, when your voice no longer asks for permission, when your energy no longer seeks to match the room, when your presence doesn't apologize for existing. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to anchor. And the moment you stop diluting your frequency, the right spaces will start to rise around you. And then one day, silence. Not outside, inside. Because you finally stopped translating yourself to be understood. You no longer feel strange. You feel whole. You no longer try to belong. You belong to yourself. And the emptiness that once hurt now holds you. You see it now. Your too much was your truth. Your weirdness was your wisdom. Your disconnection wasn't dysfunction, it was a signal. Your soul returns like a cautious animal, testing the ground, sensing if it's safe. And for the first time, you don't chase it away. You make space. You don't crave loud rooms anymore. You don't need surface validation. You don't panic in your own presence. Because now, you have you. I am the space I searched for in others. Comment below. I am the space I searched for in others. Share this with someone who has never felt fully at home. And if you're ready to build your own frequency, subscribe now. The end of not belonging begins the moment you become your own home.